I felt one really strong contraction. I felt almost like a drop. And I just thought, oh my goodness, these contractions are now getting very, very intense. And the doctor said, we'll come back and check on you in 3 hours. Oh my goodness. I just looked at her. I said, this is going to take 3 hours. And they start laughing and they go, well, we sure hope not, but you never know. We're just saying that if we don't hear from you, we'll check back in on you in 3 hours. I said, oh, okay, fine. Hi, ladies. Did you miss me? No, you really didn't, because you've been listening to me every week. If you are a regular podcast listener. If you aren't a regular podcast listener, I don't know. Maybe you missed me. Maybe you didn't. But I am back from maternity leave. So this is my first episode that I'm recording in about 4 months. So it feels like I'm back because I batched all the other episodes. So that's fun. But I felt like a very good first episode back would be to share my birth story and postpartum, what I was doing for hormone support, sleep support, where I just cried, and all of those things. So I like hearing people's birth stories, but I mostly wanted to share this with you because I know a lot of you have followed along with a very emotionally charged pregnancy, and I wanted to kind of give you some updates. This is my third boy, if anybody was keeping track there. My third kiddo. Also, by the check, if you're watching YouTube, I just need to update you guys on this. Okay, so we have moved, and so obviously I have a different background. I need to change the paint color for my YouTube videos. So I am taking votes on this paint color. So if you would like to tell me what you think I should paint it, this is also going, that picture back there. And we need to find a place to put my plant, because so far my plant is still alive and well. But if you're wondering why I'm in a different location for YouTube videos, that's why. So give me your votes on paint color. I'm open to solutions. So anyways, this is my third kiddo. You guys know that I did have a subchorionic hemorrhage in the first part of my pregnancy, which ended up on giving Roman what they called a dilated bowel in utero. And that was the assumption as to what has caused it. They didn't really know. I was very thankful during my pregnancy that I was able to work with a holistic doctor who put me on a very specific supplement protocol to help stabilize the subchorionic hemorrhage, as well as build up my iron stores and my hemoglobin, because having a subchorionic hematoma, because that's what it turned into, can put you at a greater risk for hemorrhaging at birth when it is that large. So mine was 9 centimeters by 6 centimeters by 6 centimeters. So it was pretty significantly big. So anyways, at the tail end of my pregnancy, we had been doing ultrasounds. We had to deliver at a different hospital than we originally were planning on, because they needed a better NICU. We were staying regular with scans to just make sure amniotic fluid was okay, because that was the biggest concern with a dilated bowel. It was very emotional, like up and down, up and down. And all of my babies have been late, like past their due date, guess date, however you look at that. And so I was 38 weeks and 3 days, I think. And that whole day, I was kind of like, he just doesn't feel like he's moving that much. And so I literally drank juice, which, when does Leah ever drink juice? Not really ever. I'm like, this should give him a sugar rush. Like, we'll see if he moves. And he didn't really move much at all. And so I thought, okay, let's just go in and go to triage. So we went to triage and they checked me all out, and they're like, oh, he's very low in your pelvis, but movement's great, heart rate's great. And this was the kicker. I was dilated past 2 centimeters. And the reason why I thought that was the kicker is because I have gone into labor with my other kids, not even dilated a centimeter. Like, I always have gone into labor, not dilated. So when anybody literally gets disappointed at their prenatal appointments and they're like, but I wasn't dilated, I'm just like, that means nothing. It means nothing. So anyways, I was having a lot of Braxton Hicks. They felt more like contractions, but we're calling Braxton Hicks. After that, they stopped, and the next day was pretty normal. Went to bed, woke up that morning at 3 a.m. with contractions. And I'm 38 weeks and 5 days at this point, you guys. So I'm just like, I am not in labor. I never go into labor this early. I was in denial. I walked around downstairs, still having contractions. So I got in the bathtub because my doctor always told me that if you get in the bathtub and you're in the water and they stop, it's false labor. If it keeps going, it's actual labor. So I was like, okay. They kept going. So I was like, okay. I, texted my sister-in-law because they were going to come get the kids. She was still sleeping. I'm like, it's fine. Like, we have plenty of time. My contractions were about 15 minutes apart, 15, 20 minutes. So it was pretty all over the place. Told my husband, like, we should probably finish packing everything up. And within that time frame, my contractions went from 15 minutes apart to 5 minutes apart. I'm like, let's get in the car. We had an hour and a half drive to the hospital. So we have the nicest neighbors on planet Earth that we know very, very well. I guess as well as you can know neighbors, but we have the sweetest neighbor. And she came over while the kids were sleeping and sat in our living room until my brother got there. Thank heavens. Thank heavens. So I have to say, because I was starting to go, oh my gosh, we need to get to the hospital. So we left, and in the car, my contractions slowed down to like 18 minutes again. So immediately you start second guessing yourself. I'm not in labor. I'm not in labor. This is not a thing. So we get there and we go into triage. I'm still having contractions. I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. I think it's early labor. We get in there and they did a cervix check, which I know some people are like so against cervix checks. I don't care. Go for it. They did a cervix check and I was almost 5 centimeters. And the reason why I just have to laugh is because like I always just go into labor not dilated. And so we were sitting there and the midwives go, well, your contractions are really irregular, so we don't want to admit you. I'm like, I'm 5 centimeters. I am in labor. So she told me I could walk around outside for 2 hours. So I was so I wasn't quite 5 centimeters. I was 4.5 centimeters, I think. Yeah, 4.5, however they measure that, and 70% effaced. And she gave me that scale of like where the baby is in your pelvis. And she said he was at a -2, I think, if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's going to be malarkey too. So I went outside and went and did part of the mile circuit as much as I could. I was listening to hypnobirthing, like visualization track. And then I started doing the stairs. So I did the stairs sideways, like on the diagonal to open up my pelvis. I did some curb walking. I was doing some really deep lunges. I don't know, whatever the stretches are that help the baby move down deeper into the pelvis, like that first stage where you need to open up the top part of the pelvis. And then, once they're fully in the birth canal, you have to open up the bottom part of the pelvis. Thank you, physical therapists, for teaching me that. Pelvic floor therapists. I guess I should emphasize that. So I was doing those and they were getting pretty regular at this point. They're about 3 minutes apart and getting really strong enough that you have to breathe through them. So we went in and the midwife was there and she's like, okay, you're 5.5 centimeters now. You're 90% effaced. Like, let's admit you're in labor. I said, I knew I was in labor. Anyway, we just, kind of casually getting ready. They finally get us into a room maybe an hour later. So we got to the hospital at 7:30 and they didn't get us into a triage room until 8:30. So we walked from like 9 to 11, got admitted, and then got into the hospital room at 12:30, if anybody cares about this timeline. And at this point, my contractions are still 3 to 5 minutes apart, and they're not too bad. They're enough where you have to like sit and go, breathe for this for a second, but it just kind of felt like strong early labor. So we get in, they have you do all that paperwork. I'm just on a birthing ball. I'm just talking to the nurse, asking her for so many good stories, and I'm just moving. My biggest thing is movement. So, just movement. And I want to say, what time is it then? Like 1:30. And this is where your mind is so powerful. So remember, we had to deliver at a different hospital. I was very concerned that baby was going to need surgery after birth for dilated bowel. And I could tell my whole body was not progressing in labor because I was worried about what was going to happen after birth. Right now, he was safe. He was inside me. Everything was good. And I could feel that some of my contractions were strong, but some of them weren't as strong as I knew that they should be. They were in the right position. I knew his position was really good. I kid you not, I was in that hospital room walking back and forth doing EFT tapping. I was literally going and doing the different pressure points and just, walking my body through that emotion. It's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And really just telling my body, like, you can do this. You're okay. You can do this. You're built for this. You're built to birth. You've got this. And I don't remember what time this was. I just remember at some point the OBs came in. Yes, multiple OBs because this is a teaching hospital. And they were like, do you want us to check you? And I'm like, sure. But at the same time, I told my husband, I was like, I feel like I haven't progressed and it's going to be depressing. But I hate getting on that, whatever that thing's called, the bed. I just stood the whole time. So I get on the bed and they check me and I was literally the same. It was like 5.5 centimeters. I was fully effaced though. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I didn't actually say that to them, but I definitely thought that. And the OB was said, his head is literally right there. My water had already been slightly broken, but it hadn't come all the way out. And she said that, if you want, we can break the rest of your water since it's already coming out and his head's right there and I can feel it right there. So she wasn't really worried about cord prolapse. And she said that will probably speed things up for you. And I was like, okay, I'm down for that. Listen to what the nurse had to say. I was like, sure, I'm fine with that. So they broke my water and this is just funny. It was, I'm going to have the timetable off. I think it was around like 2:30, 2:25, something like that. I felt one really strong contraction. I felt almost like a drop. And I just thought, oh my goodness, these contractions are now getting very, very intense. And the doctor said, we'll come back and check on you in 3 hours. Oh my goodness. I just looked at her. I said, this is going to take 3 hours. And they start laughing and they go, well, we sure hope not, but you never know. We're just saying that if we don't hear from you, we'll check back in on you in 3 hours. I said, oh, okay, fine. And they leave. And the nurse is like, that little red cord, you pull that if you need me. Like, okay. So they left and I was walking around and he was born 3 minutes later. 3 minutes later. My husband ripped that cord. He thought he was going to have to catch the baby. I was still standing up. I'm like, he's coming. He's here. And the nurse comes flying in and she's like, what? I'm like, he's here. He's coming. And she's like, no, is he? And then she sees his head. She goes, oh my gosh, he's coming. And then all of a sudden, the room is filled with people. And the nurse caught him. I don't think the OBs made it back in the room in time. So literally, they broke my water, left, and I had him in 3 minutes. I think I had, was it 4 contractions in that time frame? They were literally coming back to back. And I remember standing there and they were like, stop pushing. I don't know if any of you have had this, but I was not pushing. It's just literally fetal ejection, I feel like. There was nothing I could do about it. I was standing. I've never given birth standing. It was interesting. Because they grabbed the baby. Obviously, thankfully, the nurse was amazing. And they're like, let's walk to the bed. I'm like, walk? How are you supposed to walk after that? So thankfully, they helped me hobble to the bed. And he came out screaming, which I was so thankful for. And they did a workup on him. We did get to have our golden hour, which was really nice, but he was not able to nurse because of the dilated bowel. They needed to run the testing, which was always, which is sad. Like, that was hard because It's just hard. They took him to the nest and he still had a blockage. And so we were thinking, obviously still surgery. I did lose a decent amount of blood and my hemoglobin dropped a few points. I think it dropped 3 or 4, but thankfully, because it had been so high, I was able to get it up so high before I came in. Everything was fine. So that was really good. He had to spend the night in the NICU, which means I had to pump, which I've never had to do right after birth. And that is interesting. And miraculously, literally, he passed the blockage all by himself that night. So he did not need surgery. He got discharged from the NICU 24 hours after birth, which was incredible. And doctors gave him the all good, we were so thankful, like all the prayers. So we were so incredibly thankful for that. So many tears of gratitude were shed. We were able to nurse after that. We had some really awesome lactation consultants, so that was really good. He had been on an IV for 24 hours, so obviously he was getting nourishment without having to nurse, so we had to start that process, which ended up on being fine, and he's a great nurser. That was his birth story, and I'm telling you, I now tell, like, my sister-in-law had her baby 6-ish weeks after I had my baby, and I was telling her, doing EFT tapping in labor, it helped so much, because really getting your mind there really made a really big difference. I felt like it really helped progress my labor along. I just am in shock. I think about it sometimes, about how the doctors left and I had him 3 minutes later and I was standing up. It's just pure shock to me. So very, very thankful for all of that. But I did want to share some things that I have been doing that I think have really helped support him and help support me postpartum, especially for hormones and all that fun stuff. So one thing that I have been doing is the BioRay Infant Probiotic. The reason why I opted for this one is because it's liquid, and so it was much easier to give him that while he is exclusively nursing, because I started to get an oversupply in the very beginning and I got mastitis. I got mastitis. I think he was 4.5 weeks old. It was utterly miserable. So I didn't want to pump because I didn't want to give myself an oversupply, more so than I had. Thankfully, it is regulated now. So I would take the infant probiotics from BioRay and put a drop right here on his inner lip, or you can put some on your nipple before nursing. All of those worked really well for me. He's been a great pooper. He's not had an issue with that at all, not been a colicky baby. All those things have been amazing. And I thought, okay, maybe you just have a pristine gut, or maybe this probiotic is really that awesome. And then someone I know told me that her baby only pooped a couple times a week, and she started using that after she saw me talk about it, and her baby pooped every day. So I think that there is something to that. BioRay, we have a discount code with them. It's Leah10. So that one was a great resource I thought was really good. And I want to tell you a little bit about mastitis because it's horrible, and some things that maybe you can do to prevent mastitis. Okay. Because as I was day 3 into mastitis and my 3rd round of antibiotics with an extremely high fever, I think my fever was 103 point something, which is why I was on the antibiotics. And I had already gotten rid of the clog at that point. So it was just crazy that the infection was still there. And I hope nobody ever has to go through that. I hope I never have to go through that again. It was truly miserable. It was so truly miserable. But here I talked to somebody who had mastitis. She has 4 kids. And I talked to her, and she had mastitis 40 times between all 4 of her kids. 40 times, you guys. But anyway, she gave me some fabulous things to do and try and utilize so I don't get that again. She said that helped so much that after she figured this out, she doesn't get mastitis anymore. So I am going to share them with you if you want to hear them. I have them written down, which is why I picked up my phone. Okay, so there's a few things. Okay, are you ready? None of this is medical advice. Okay, you can just take this as you like. So as soon as you start to think you are getting mastitis, and some of these things I was already doing, but she gave me some awesomer things to do. Echinacea, 5 times a day until feeling completely better, and to use either like colloidal silver, Argentine 23, something like that, a couple times a day on like a teaspoon until your fever breaks, and then you can cut that out. So I was like, okay, that one I wasn't doing. I had been doing the echinacea. She said vitamin C, about 3 grams a day. I had been on that, so that was good. And then this one was interesting. I didn't know about this one. Epsom salt pack on like where the lump is on the infected breast / underarm area 3 times per day until your fever breaks. Interesting, right? And then she gave me 4 homeopathic remedies that she said make a really big difference in helping the lymph drain. This is all stuff you would do as soon as you get mastitis, like as soon as you suspect it. So one is called Energique Lymph Drainx. I know you're going to ask for this. We'll put them in the show notes. Energique Lymph Apar, Energique Infectistat. That's hard to say. Okay. Energetics Relief Tone. So it's all lymph. So you take those 4 homeopathics at a dose of, it's a liquid, 10 drops every 15 minutes for 2 hours, and then every hour for the rest of the day. She told me that like when I wake up in the middle of the night, take the homeopathics. Anyways, that is what she recommended. It did really help. Like I was at the tail end of, by the time I talked to her, I was more like at the tail end of my mastitis journey, because obviously antibiotics weren't even working at that point. So I was desperate for more help. Anyways, I have those on hand if that ever happens again. Hope that never happens again to me. But she did say these are the 2 things to help prevent it. So again, none of this is medical advice. You do your own research, decide what you would like to do for mastitis. But maybe it's helpful for you. So she said that your breast tissue actually has its own microbiome. So there's 2 different probiotics that make a difference to prevent mastitis so that you don't get it again. Thank you. So one is Premier Research Labs probiotic, and the other is Transformation probiotic. And you just take those daily. So I'm doing that. You can get those on FullScript. So if you go to the website, leahbrueggemann.com, go to favorites, and then scroll down to supplement dispensary. You can create a free account there, look up those 2 probiotics and grab them. And choline actually makes a difference as well. And staying consistent on it. So you guys know I take Body Bio PC, which you can also get on FullScript, which is has phosphatidylcholine. She did say you can also do sunflower lecithin. She said sometimes that works for people, sometimes it doesn't work for people. Interesting, right? Anyways, that is my education on mastitis, because that is horrific. Hope none of you get that. And the last thing I think would be helpful for you in that is probably going to be how do you repair your gut post antibiotics, because that's what I'm doing. And I think that deserves its own episode. What do you think? I think it deserves its own episode, but I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet, and then we'll do a whole episode on the breakdown of why, so this one doesn't get insanely long. So there's a few things that I really focused on in terms of supporting my gut post antibiotics. And that was helping my body refuel the good bacteria versus just like taking a ton of probiotics. So I actually focused on turkey tail, which helps feed the good bacteria. And I focused on Chinese skullcap, which is an herb that basically just helps support that gut to rebuild, but also helps nothing bad come in and take over. And I did digestive enzymes and bitters. And the reason why is I did bitters with every meal to basically help support stomach acid. So my gut was uninhabitable to any bad, gross, disgusting bugs, and the digestive enzyme to help break down my food as I was rebuilding my gut bacteria. That is still what I'm currently doing. And then I will eventually, bring in some probiotics. But gut's actually feeling pretty darn good. So that's awesome. What else? Did I do anything else? I did turkey tail, did astragalus. Oh wait, astragalus. I literally didn't even tell you. Astragalus is another herb. Same thing, just helps your body build up that good gut bacteria. I actually was already on that. If you guys were listening to postpartum support supplements, I was taking postpartum rejuvenation from Womb Wellness, which has astragalus in it. So hence I was already on it. But I really, 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 really do think that the bitters and the enzymes did a fabulous job of just helping my gut not become the perfect host for overgrowth, because you're kind of in a vulnerable time on antibiotics. And then when I was on the antibiotics, I took the probiotic called Sac Boulardi. And the reason why I did that is it's really good to help prevent like antibiotic diarrhea and just help any type of like your body not have any yeast overgrowth or anything like that while you're on antibiotics. And so that's why I was on Sac B. And so I would take it 2 hours away from my antibiotics. I used the brand Seeking Health, and I took 2 capsules 2 times a day, 2 hours away from antibiotics. And you can also get that on Fullscript, same place. I need to like create like a cheat code link so you can get there faster. But basically, just go to my website or go to the show notes. I'm sure there's a link there that says Leah's favorite supplements or something along those lines. Okay. All right. You guys are awesome. Did I miss anything? Oh, where I get my herbs, my bitters. So I really like the bitters and Chinese skullcap, those tinctures from Subluna. You guys have heard me talk about that a ton of times. I love Subluna, and you can use discount code Leah to save there, but I love them. They're fabulous. Highly recommend. All right, guys. Hope that was helpful.